Hello and welcome everyone to our Vistatec Life Sciences in Focus podcast, fascinating conversations with global life sciences experts. This is a space where we interview life sciences experts once a month, and I'm your host, Karen Ketchick. I am delighted to talk with today's guest, Sara Tylosky, whose personal and professional story intrigued me when we first met. She's currently president at Farmacon Global, strategic partners. And Sarah's had a fascinating career, and she has more than one iron in the fire. So we're going to discuss various aspects of that. But more, our focus today is the increasing convergence between nutraceuticals and pharma. So we'll delve into that in a moment. First of all, though, Sarah, I'm grateful to have you here. It's always a delight to talk with you. Please, would you tell our listeners a little about your origin story and how you got to where you are now?
Oh my goodness. Well, as I mentioned earlier when we were speaking, I was in pharma in my first career and carried the bag. I was in sales and marketing, a very successful career that led to management, very successful career. I worked for small companies and then the last stop was GSK. And then I was also involved in some of the research projects there and PAC, which was interesting, the Political Action Committee, when Medicare was getting passed. So that was sort of fun. And then I dropped out of pharma completely for about 5 or 6 years, started a nonprofit in rural Mexico to help kids really get an education because at the time, sixth grade was pretty much what kids in the country were getting. And so that it led to a really interesting story. We ended up giving that nonprofit to another company there, another group that helps kids with getting scholarships for college, after high school. And then I needed to make money. So then we started our own consulting company that was focused on both patient recruitment out of Latin America, and then that led to other things. So now Pharmacon Global is really a strategic partner for organizations to, work to make people better from years of solving problems in clinical research, from patient recruitment to full trial operations. But we do it in a modular fashion. So we maximize all efficiencies. We're not really a CRO, we're more of a strategic partner. And we really care about healing patients like in cancer and rare disease and conditions that are really often chronically underfunded or overlooked. So.
Very well. What's not to love about that? So you have both a multicultural aspect to your life and career that we'll touch on later, and then the deep subject matter expertise in life sciences. So we said that we're going to talk today about a convergence, an increasing convergence. Tell our listeners a little how you've got into
Yeah.
nutraceuticals and where you're seeing changes.
Yeah, well, it's just early days, but the line between pharma and everything else, supplements, natural source biologics, devices, it's really dissolving. The common thread isn't really that regulation is getting looser, it's actually getting more strict. And just to give an example, in the US, nutrition products are regulated under the Dietary Supplemental Health and Education Act, the DSHEA, which lets the FDA allow supplements on the market without pre-approval. Whereas in the Europe, which is the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, which you may be familiar with, they require safety data to be submitted before a product can be sold. And they also want to know scientific evidence. So this is what's happening. I mean, if you look at pharma companies, they're looking for lower risk, fast to revenue, coming into the consumer preventative health. I mean, a great example is that Amarin, I don't know if you know, it's Amarin's Vascepa is an FDA approved omega-3. It's a drug purified, or omega-3 drug purified from fish oil. So this convergence isn't really new because that's an older product. And that's what's going on. And consumers are tired of vague claims where they want real data, especially in
Yeah.
I think about Instagram, it's like, oh my God, it's frightening what's going on. And so nutraceutical companies are investing in real clinical trials to differentiate from that crowded, often sketchy market.
You're right. It's so confusing for consumers,
So
that who, I mean, obviously you and I are intimately aware of the difference between a supplement and a drug and a device and all the various aspects. And
Yeah,
but consumers, they might know that statement. This product has not been, uh, you know, reviewed for effectiveness by the FDA. I forget what's on the
right,
bottle of all the
right.
supplements people take, but it's a statement living in the US that I've read many times, and then yes, around the world, different regulatory bodies are treating anything that you consume in different ways, aren't they?
Yes,
So,
yes,
yes, it's confusing for people who might want to consider taking these to improve their health, and that's what we've got to try and solve, right? Isn't
yes.
it?
And then, and people don't even know what nutraceuticals are. I mean, they're basically a food-derived product used to support health. So it's a little bit of a gray zone between
Yes,
everyday nutrition and pharmaceutical grade evidence. It's
yes.
that gray area, and that's where I think we're seeing that convergence start to happen.
I always think of things like milk in the US might be supplemented with vitamin D, or orange juice might be
Yes, or
supplemented with
cereal for that matter.
calcium, and
Yes,
all these, and people don't think of that as a nutraceutical. They think about it as a food with a bonus or
right.
something. I don't know what people think about when what people not in the industry think about, but yeah, it's very confusing indeed. So, how did you get into that world of nutraceuticals?
Well, I mean, we're just putting our toe in the water. I mean, I've always been, in one of my previous lives, I was actually a bodybuilder because I played competitive tennis in college and had a pretty bad injury, and I was close to getting a rotator cuff surgery. I'm like, no, there's another way. And so out of that, I really studied a lot of nutrition. I've done courses at Stanford University. And so, I'm just very much into the nutrition story. And so now I'm seeing that convergence and how we can see that. I have a couple proof points if you'd like, I can share with you. It's really
Sure.
interesting.
Yeah. Great.
So there's a company called SMS Biotech. You can look them up. It's a company we're having discussions with. In fact, they presented at Bio, Karen. And they're out of San Diego. They've developed a small mobile stem cell. It's a proprietary adult blood-derived stem cell population and as an off-the-shelf regenerative therapy. And they already got phase 1 trials going on in COPD. Then they're also looking at things like osteoarthritis. I actually listened to one of their webinars, and because I have a horse, I'm a big interest in it. And they showed this horse that had a terrible tendon problem and his hoof was all messed up. I mean, in a month it was healed. It was pretty wild. And what the technology has done is basically been able to and I'm not a scientist, but take the stem cell and make it micro tiny. So that's why it's been so huge. So why this is not a company just in the sideline. We're actually in discussions with them to bring trials to the clinic, but it's a naturally derived product
Yes.
from our bodies. And that's what makes it
Mhm.
really unique. And stem cells have been around, but we haven't had that good data. We haven't had that strict FDA, going on. It's just been kind of a, Wild West approach. So that's an example of that convergence right there.
I can actually add one of my own. I participated last year in a placebo-controlled clinical trial for a supplement.
Oh, that's
It was designed to relax you and help you go to sleep. And so
I
I ended
remember
up
you
being on the
commented, yes.
placebo. So I found out after the trial that I was on the placebo. But there are companies out there,
Doing it.
adopting the methods. So I can
Yeah,
also speak and agree to the fact that this is happening. And I
yeah,
have personally been involved in
yeah.
with one company that is doing multiple clinical trials on
There's
nutraceuticals.
another one that I was really fascinated that I just met at Bio. It's called Shoto Biosciences. And I just this blew my mind because I take kefir, for example, every day. I don't know if you do, but if you don't, you should, because it has your natural probiotics in there. And so what they did is they took a bacterial strain already found in breast milk, and they're not developing it as a supplement, but they're going through full FDA style clinical trials, randomized double-blind, placebo-controlled for a neurological development condition, autism spectrum disorder. I mean, who knew? But the theory behind it is, and they've already shown good data, that if your microbiome is good, that also affects your brain. And we all know the gut's considered like the second brain. So it's pretty fascinating. And there are early days
Yes,
still, but it's like this is here. It's already here. Yeah.
fabulous. Yeah, fabulous. All right, it's 2026, so let's talk about AI. Wouldn't
Yes,
be a conversation. So
that's right.
what do you think, how do you see AI accelerating or not
Yep.
um the what's going on in our world?
Absolutely. So where AI fits in is obviously the biggie is the discovery and trial design. I mean, AI is helping identifying promising biological candidates and of
Mhm.
course optimizing trial design so that we're seeing that it's shrinking that R&D that used to take years and you know that. It's also helping with analytical testing. So I spoke to a company that is working with big pharma and biotechs. They're using robotics and AI to create a better process for actually making their product, whether it's a drug or a nutraceutical or whatever. And so that's so critical for certifying these products at a pharma grade rigor, without that pharma grade budget. So this one company that I'm meeting with, they got a big grant. I think it was Lilly, but I don't quote me on that, for like $40 million to take all of their products and get their processes better, but through an AI assisted robotic point. I mean, the main point is that it's lowering the cost of generating the kind of evidence in big pharma. And of course, it'll be true in every aspect of our lives. So we can't ignore it. I mean, I love my Claude, we're buddies.
Yeah, yeah, that real world evidence piece, it's really it's helping, isn't it? We're
Yes.
beyond the pilot stage. Last year, the year before, it was all about piloting
Yeah.
this, that, and the other. But there are companies that have brought in governance and are
Yes.
doing it appropriately,
Yes. I mean, do you
right?
have an AI policy? That's something we're working on right now. Actually, almost
Yes,
finished. It's a
yes,
very important.
Vistatec's equipped with governance
Sure.
um, and the like. And we have experts in that. I don't have to be. I can just be friends with Copilot when I need to. But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
no,
That's your
no,
buddy.
no.
It's
Vistatec
amazing.
has experts in the domain for our clients who want to delve into that world. And we're bespoke, so we have other clients that don't want to
Right.
delve into
Right.
that world because they're not ready for that and they prefer to
Yeah.
avoid AI. Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
so
just
there
on that front, just to comment, like we have a client and they have asked us to take all of the information we've used to help us create some consulting work that they needed on a product that was approved in Europe, but again, different kind of pathway. And now the FDA gave them a slap on the hand, so we're helping them, figure that out. They want everything out of our AI system. They don't want anything there. So again, depends a lot on the company.
it does.
Yeah.
I think we still have a full spectrum in our world of regulated life sciences, right? The larger players have the money to invest in both the governance and the cybersecurity and the training because AI is not free, right?
Mhm. Exactly.
And mid-size and small companies we found just they aren't there yet. They're
They're
either not
not.
interested, they've chosen
Yeah.
not to be interested, or they don't have the money to do it properly. Therefore, the existing workflows, long-standing workflows, are the right solutions for them. So
No,
it's
absolutely.
yes, things are changing, but not for everyone at the same pace. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
No, it's true. It's like the new railroad, basically. Everybody's going to be on the wagon eventually, you know. Yeah.
yes, in a generation, or perhaps sooner, because that's the pace of
So
change
fast.
is different. Yeah, well, that's enough on AI. I think we've covered AI. We've done our
Yeah.
2026 due diligence. So let's go back to that piece you mentioned at the beginning about Latin America. Tell me
Yeah, yeah,
about
exactly. So,
uh,
no, that's a great question. So, if this convergent trend means more companies need real trials and testing, where is it going to happen? And so, one of the things that people just don't know is that Latin America is an incredible opportunity for both clinical trials in pharma, clinical trials in nutraceuticals, market access. Often I was just listening to a podcast the other day about longevity. And one of the problems is that people in the US are not willing to be in trials. Well, hello, if it benefits you, why not? So there's a great, often treatment naive patient population. There's a cost efficiency. There's really good GCP clients. There's compliance. There's really good data. There's a growing sophistication between the regulatory bodies in all the Latin American countries, along with the FDA. And this is things that people just don't know. So in terms of like the nutraceutical chain, it's also a great market. There's 660 million people in all of Latin America, Brazil being like the sixth largest health market in the world, and people just don't know. It's right next door to the US. So the position is you need to understand the science, the regulatory side, the on-the-ground execution, but it's very doable. It's super doable.
And you've helped people decide which Latin American countries
Exactly.
to be involved in, and you
Yeah,
have relationships with sites and all sorts of partners in many Latin
absolutely.
American countries, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're
absolutely.
you're
Yeah.
positioned
Because
to
sometimes
help.
it's better to work with a smaller company that knows the landscape because it can be complex. But if you have the right partner, then it's going to be speedy fast. I mean,
Mhm.
the regulatory pathway, I just have to comment, has changed significantly in Brazil and in Mexico. It's like 90 days max, and people just don't know. They think it's a year before anything happens. So it's
Right.
not
Well, you
just about,
can't.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
No, I was just saying it's not just about, tequila and staying on the beach. There's some very highly qualified people in all of that region. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. There's some amazing research universities, medical centers, and massive global populations, like you
yeah.
said. When I first became aware of the extent of it, it was during the beginning of the pandemic. It was COVID
Mhm.
vaccine tests in Brazil. I was friends with somebody heavily involved in translating content for, I think it was
Interesting.
Pfizer's. It was that right
Yes,
at the beginning, the emergency
the big one. Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was when I first became aware. I was, because as you know, my multicultural heritage is Francophone rather than
Yes. Yes.
Hispano hablante. So, yeah, that's when I grew my personal knowledge.
I mean,
So,
interesting. I just want to add something about the pandemic. Interesting little side story. We did a 9,000 recruitment of patients for COVID-19
oh.
with a company. This is the interesting part. It's so interesting. With a company that had a plant-based vaccine. And we were all incredibly excited about it. Unfortunately, they had manufacturing problems and they went down south. But wow, what a concept. And that was also part of my thinking. Like, how can we do things more naturally instead of everything being synthesized? I mean, obviously, you have to get stability and consistency, but it was very fascinating.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Didn't know that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9,000 patients. That's
That was a
quite an
lot.
achievement. That's quite an achievement, as
Yeah.
anyone in clinical trial recruitment knows, or well, anyone at all in the clinical research space.
Yes.
Very good. So let's tie these thoughts together.
Yeah,
What
for sure.
how would tell me what you're thinking about how all these themes that we've covered come together and
Yeah.
where we're going from here?
Well, and since we're running trials, we're talking about trials in general across borders. I mean, you guys are dealing with that, and everything needs translating. And no matter what the AI says, and people I think when AI came on board, they thought, oh, well, we can just translate and it's done. No, it still has to be certified. You still have your regulatory. And so, I think if there's ever a gap in any of the projects out there, even with you guys, we can certainly help, work together with that. We're actually working on a project that's back to the nutraceutical story that is a high concentration, I don't want to say the name because we're early days, a high concentration collagen tripeptide that's been engineered to a small molecular weight, like 500 Daltons, and it's roughly equivalent to 4 times faster than the traditional ones, which don't really work well unless you take, 5 scoops a day kind of thing. So this is already out there. They've got a couple studies in clinicaltrials.gov, and we're trying to help navigate how they can bring that to the market. It's so fascinating. So it's we all have to work together more. I think that's the bottom line because the
Yeah,
walls are coming down.
yes, we do. Yes, no, those collagen, those scoops of collagen, that it's the thing that people are doing all the time, isn't it? Yes,
Yeah.
there's a volume issue. There's a volume issue. in that
Well,
those.
people in the US think more is better, but that's not necessarily true from a medical grade point of view, so that's an interesting perception problem.
Yes. Well, Sarah, we've had a lovely conversation. And
Yeah.
as we close it out, is there anything else that you'd like to share with
I
our
mean, I think the
audience?
smartest move is to figure out where you can work efficiently. And I think that's why Latin America is a great opportunity, but also beyond that, just how to bring these super amazing companies to market where we are doing more things naturally. That's and helping people with their health. It's not simple.
It, it's not simple. Famous last words, indeed,
Yes.
from
Yeah,
Sara Tylosky. Thank you so much for your insights. And to our audience, the Life Sciences in Focus podcast is available on Spotify, at Apple Podcasts, and other leading platforms, as well as on YouTube if you prefer to watch us. Please make
fantastic.
sure to tune in again next month for Vistatec Life Sciences in Focus, fascinating conversations with global life sciences experts.
Thank you so much, Karen. It was great.